Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Today is Saturday, May 10th, 2025, and you are here with Robin at In the Family Way Coaching. We are here for our daily counting of the Omer and our daily Bible reading. We are going through the daily Bible, day-by-day Kids Bible this year, written by Karen Henley. And this is a fantastic version of the Bible. It is a storybook, chronological Bible, and it gives us the big story from Genesis through Revelation. Don't be discouraged if you are just joining and you're seeing that this is a kid's Bible. This is not just for kids. The reading level is for kids of about 7 or up, but the story content is very complete, and every single day, God is giving us daily personal application. And that is the best part about this event, is that we can see how God's word has daily application in our very lives every single day. So thank you so much for joining me today and every day, whether you are listening along on your favorite podcast app or whether you are watching on video somewhere. This event is available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Pandora, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and it's also available on my site. And if you are following along with your daily commitment calendar, it's time to get that out and your sticker or however you are marking it off, because you're about to hear the Bible today. Oh, I thought I heard Scooby, but I hear Kitty. We are going to start off with our daily counting of the Omer. This is the 50 days until we get to Shavuot, which is also called Pentecost. And this started the day after Passover when we had our festival of first fruits. So we are counting down, and today we are going to be on day 27. So we are over halfway through with our Pentecost countdown to Shavuot. If you would like to count the Omer with me, just follow along by repeating after me. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has set us apart by your commandments and has commanded us to count the Omer. Today is the 6th week of the 4th day and day 27. I have counted the Omer. All right, well, thank you for joining me today. I am reading this from a devotional put out by shareshdavid.org, and that is a Messianic Jewish congregation out of Florida. And as I have been, I will have the description. In the description, I will have the link where if you are just joining me and are interested in continuing to count the Omer on your own or check that out, the description will have the link to where you can download that yourself. Well, for those of you anxiously awaiting, I have not had my necklace returned yet, but today we will find personal application in that. And I believe we will have further confirmation that God will be returning my necklace. Today's reading comes to us from 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 38 through 44, and 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 1 through 7, and 2 Kings chapter 3. Our first section is entitled Death in the Soup. Wow. So as we saw yesterday, that's the 10th. The last thing we read yesterday was that Elisha raised a Shunammite's woman, her son, from the dead. And then Elisha told her to go live in another land for 7 years. So today is a little bit of a continuation of that. I just want to remind us where we read and left off yesterday, because it says that there won't be much to eat. God is sending a time when no food will grow and there won't be much to eat, and this will go on for 7 years. So today we're going to pick up where it says, Elisha went to a town where people had no more food. Crops weren't growing in the land. Elisha met with a group of prophets there. Elisha told Gehazi, that was his servant, put a big pot on the fire and cook some soup for these men. One man went out to the fields, and he looked for something to make the soup taste good. He found a vine growing wild. Some kind of fruit was on the vine. So he picked the fruit and he filled his coat with it and took it back. Nobody knew what kind of fruit it was, but the man cut the fruit up and he put it into the pot. The men started to eat the soup. Ugh, there's death in this soup, they said. It's poison. So they couldn't eat the soup. Bring me some flour, said Elisha. He put the flour into the soup pot. You can eat it now, Elisha said. And the soup wasn't bad anymore. A man came to see Elisha, and he brought Elisha 20 loaves of bread. It was made from the first grain crop he had grown. Give it to the people, said Elisha. Let them eat it. This won't feed 100 people, said Gehazi. Give it to them anyway, said Elisha. God says they will eat it, and they'll even have food left over. So the man gave it to the people. They ate it, and they had leftovers. It happened just like God said it would. Our next section is entitled, An Axe on the Water. 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 1 through 7. The prophets told Elisha, our meeting house is too small. Let's go to the Jordan River to get logs, and then let's build a new meeting place. We can live there. Go ahead, said Elisha. Please come with us, one man said. All right, said Elisha. So he went with them, and they started cutting down trees at the river. But the sharp iron top of one man's axe fell off, and it fell into the river. Oh no, cried the man. That's not my axe. It belongs to someone else. Where did it go? Asked Elisha. The man showed Elisha where it fell into the water. Elisha cut a stick, and he threw the stick into the water. It landed where the axe fell. Then the heavy iron top of the axe came up. It lay there on top of the water. Pull it out, said Elisha. And the man did. 2 Kings chapter 3. Water that looked red. Now Joram was the king of Israel, and Jehoshaphat was the king of Judah. King Joram sent a message to King Jehoshaphat. Would you come and help me fight the country of Moab? Yes, said Jehoshaphat, I will go with you. My people will go, and my horses will grow. What road shall we take? We should go through the desert, said King Joram. So both kings headed out with their armies, and the king of Edom and his army went with them. They marched around for 7 days. Then they ran out of water. What's happening? Asked King Joram. Did God get us together so Moab could win? Is there a prophet of God with us? Asked Jehoshaphat. He could ask God what to do. One of the leaders said, Elisha is here, and he used to be Elijah's helper. God will give him a message for us, said King Jehoshaphat. So the 3 kings went to see Elisha. Why are you asking me? Said Elisha to King Joram. Why don't you ask your father's prophets? Because God got us together so Moab could win, said Joram. Elisha said. I wouldn't even look at you if Jehoshaphat weren't here. But I care about King Jehoshaphat. Now bring me someone who plays the harp. The harp player came, and he began to play music. Then God gave Elisha these words. Here's what God says. Dig long ditches in this valley. You won't see any rain, and there won't be any wind. But the valley will fill up with water. You and your animals can drink it. Then Elisha said, This is easy for God. He will also let you win over Moab. You will win over every fort. You will win over all the important towns. You will cut down all their trees. You will close up their springs. You will throw rocks in their fields. So they dug the long ditches, and the next morning, water rushed into the valley. It filled the ditches. Now all the men of Moab had come out to fight, and there were young men and old men, and they got up early in the morning. They looked out where the three kings were camped. The sun was shining on the water in the valley, and that made the water look red. It looked like blood. The men of Moab said, Look at the blood! The kings must have killed each other. Let's go take their things. So the men of Moab went down into the camp. Then the army of the three kings rushed out. They began to fight, and the men of Moab ran away. The three kings took their army into Moab, and they won over all the cities. They covered the good fields with rocks. They closed up the springs of water, and they cut all the trees down. The king of Moab saw that he was losing, so he got 700 men together, and he led them against the king of Edom. But he didn't win. The king of Moab was very angry at the three kings, and at last the three kings went back home. That is the end of our reading today. We saw a lot of amazing things today, too. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention about the battle between the three kings and the Moabite king is that what our version of the Bible does not tell us is that King Joram was not quite as bad as his father. He did take down the altars for Baal, the false god, but he did not specifically worship God. So he was not considered a good king, but he was not as bad as his father. And I wanted to read that because it was a little bit important. It says, Jehoram, Ahab's son, became king of Israel in Samaria, and he did what was evil in Adonai's eyes, though not like his father and mother, for he put away the pillar of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he clung to the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel sin, not turning away from them. So he was not quite as bad, but what I think is important here is that he did put away, let's see, it says he put away the pillar of Baal that his father had made. So he did do something right. And part of our lesson for today, our daily application, is that God meets us where we are. Now, he also was using King Joram and King Jehoshaphat and the Edomite king against the king of Moab, because also what our version of the Bible does not go into is that the king of Moab was doing terrible, terrible things with his false gods. The reason they wanted to go against Moab is because he was supposed to be paying King uh, King Jehoram a tribute with wool with wool of lambs and rams. But when his father died, the king of Moab rebelled against King Jehoram and stopped paying him what he was supposed to pay him. But what was really bad, what they don't mention in our version, is that they were practicing a human sacrifice. And specifically, the sacrifice involved the sacrificing of their firstborn sons and daughters. So when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too fierce for him, it says in the Big Bible, he took with him 700 swordsmen to break through to the king of Edom, but they could not. Then he took his firstborn son, who should have become king in his place, and offered him as a burnt offering on the wall. So he was doing terrible, terrible things. And God was punishing the king of Moab by giving the battles over to Israel and Judah. So I did want to point that out, because in the past we've seen where the two kings worked together, it was not to God's acceptance. God was not pleased about that. So, but God did use King Jehoram, and he met him where he was. And God does that with us too. He meets us where we are. Now, for me, I wanted to point out, we know that my necklace is lost at the moment. And where I work for Amazon. And where I stand when I am packing orders, I don't do packing of orders every day, but that is where I was when I lost my necklace. And I am sure that it dropped into a paper bag and went out to a customer's order, because I keep my station very clean at my feet. And when we pull the strip from the bags, I put it into the trash can. It doesn't tend to fall to the floor. So I could see the floor at my workstation where I was working for a number of hours. And I did not see at any point my necklace. So I am pretty sure that it fell into a customer's order. So I was telling the rabbi this morning at the service after everything was over. I was going to meet with him on Thursday, and then I decided I was a little bit bothered about my necklace that day. That was the day I found out that where it was, not that I did wear it to work. They had found by security on the cameras, and that they saw that then I was not wearing it. And so I was a little distressed at that time on Thursday, and I was supposed to be meeting with the rabbi at a church. And it was just an open invitation. It wasn't like my attendance was mandatory, but I had planned on going. And so I went up to him after the service today and was telling him, I'm sorry I didn't make it. This is what occurred. And I explained how I had lost my necklace and how I believed that it had fallen into a customer's order. Now, remember the story we just read? We read of a couple of amazing things that Elisha did. And when I told him that that I believed God was going to return my necklace to me, do you know what he said? He said, the axe will float. And that is exactly what we read today. Out of everything that we could have read, I read the story before I go. I read it in the morning before I have my coffee. And And I didn't make that connection until he said it. And I said, yes, yes, I read that today. I said, yes, well, I just read that today. So he was telling me that that as the same way that the lost axe head was miraculously floating to the top of the water and was able to be returned to its owner. Because remember, that axe head didn't belong to the man who was using it. He said, oh my gosh, that axe, it's not mine. It belongs to somebody else. And then Elisha caused it to rise to the top of the water, which we know that metal does not float. And so it could be retrieved and given back to the person it belonged to. And so I told him, I said, yes, yes, we read that today, as a matter of fact. That's funny you should mention that. And then as I was sitting later on in the day, about an hour, a couple of hours after that, I started thinking about the conversation with him, and I went, oh my gosh, that was when I made the connection. I truly believe that it is not a coincidence that we would read that today, and then the rabbi would say the same thing, that the axe will float. So to me, that is just further confirmation that God is telling me we are going to see my necklace returned. Because we know that it is not possible typically for metal to float. That is not possible. Axe heads do not float, they sink. And it is not customary when something like that happens, when you lose something like that, for it to simply be recovered. So that is what my daily application is for today, is that God is sending sign that, in the same way that we talked about yesterday, that that he was sending those readings of doing amazing things and needing to trust him with big things that are beyond our control, like when Judah was being met with a very large army, and they went to God and said, we are small, we don't know what to do, we can't do this ourselves. And he said, you won't have to fight the battle at all, just show up. So and we talked about that God gives us big things so that we can come to him, so he can show us something amazing. But it needs to be something that's too big for us. No, it's just where we can't possibly do it ourselves. And I can't possibly do this myself. So I am excited. And I cannot wait. I don't know when it will occur, but I will keep us updated when it does happen. So, our first daily application for everybody is that God meets us where we are. He still used King Joram, and he allowed King Jehoshaphat to work with him. But he did require obedience as well. He said, yes, he said he was providing water, but he said that you will do these things. And I wanted to read those two actually out of our big Bible. He says, as the musician played, the hand of the Lord came upon Elisha, and he said, thus says the Lord, make this valley full of trenches. For thus says the Lord, you will not see wind, nor will you see rain, yet this valley will be filled with water. So you will drink, both you and your cattle and your animals. Yet this is an easy thing in the Lord's eyes, for he will also deliver the Moabites into your hand. Now, this is the part that it words it a little bit differently in our Bible. Instead of it looking like, he says, this is what you will also do, God is telling them what to do. He says, then you must strike every fortified city and every major town, cut down every good tree, stop up all the springs of water, and ruin every good field with stones. Then it came to pass in the morning, about the time of offering up the sacrifice, behold, Water was flowing from the direction of Edom, so that the water covered the land. So God gave them a direction to do, and they obeyed. And so we've been speaking also about how important it is that when God tells us to do something, that we obey. And we see here today that they all obeyed. King Joram obeyed, King Jehoshaphat obeyed, and the king of Edom obeyed. They all obeyed, and when they got to the battle time, they did exactly what God told them to do. They, when they rose up early in the morning, let's see, they invaded, slaughtering the Moabites. They destroyed the cities. Also, each man threw his stone. It says each man, so every single person obeyed. Each man threw his stone onto every good field and covered it. They stopped up all the springs of water and cut down all the good trees until nothing was left except the city of Kir-Hareseth with the stones of its wall. However, the slingers encircled it and struck it down. And when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too terrible for him, that was when he attempted to try to change the pattern of the battle, and he sacrificed his firstborn son to his false idol to try to change the outcome of the battle. But of course, that didn't do anything. But the Israelites were so disgusted by it that they left. It says, there was great wrath against Israel, and they withdrew from him and returned to their own land. So, not a whole lot was written on that part. So, it was important that the Israelites obeyed as well. And so, that is also always a very good daily application for us. So, I hope that you are encouraged. We are seeing a lot of amazing things that Elisha is doing, that God is using Elisha to do and is working through Elisha. And we are seeing how faithful God is with his people. And so always, always, that is a number one thing to remember in our daily applications as we read through the Bible, to see that God is always so faithful. He is taking care of his people. He is performing miracles through Elisha. He is bringing enough food. There were 20 loaves of bread, and yet it fed 100 people with bread left over. We see great provision from God. So aside from my personal application, I want us to all to see that there is application for everybody. God is faithful. We can trust in him. We can bring anything to him. We can bring times when we need food to him. We can bring things to him when we lose something and we would like for him to bring it back to us. When whatever happens, whether there's a great trial that we are facing, there's a great distress, whatever issue we have going on, we can bring everything to God. Everything, everything,